Like a bird on a wire, like a drunk midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free. Those are not words written by Kris Kristofferson. They are written by Leonard Cohen. But Kris Kristofferson in interviews said that he wanted those words to be on his gravestone. Sadly, I just got the news that Kris Kristofferson is no longer with us. And I think that we are saying goodbye to one of the great musicians and even actors of our time. I got into the music of Kris Kristofferson about 5 years ago, and it started for me with this album, The Silver Tongued Devil and which I hesitated to buy it for two reasons. First of all, I got it as an advice from a record salesman here in Amsterdam, Waterloo Square, good, and I had never listened to country before, and I had some prejudices against country music. Obviously, my bad. Also, I thought if I'm gonna start listening to country, why start listening to the music by somebody who is actually an actor? I mean, there are so many actors who have this musical career that are like, yeah, whatever. I knew him to be a great actor. I'm a film buff, I'm a filmmaker as well, and I knew him from his work in, for example, the last movie. I knew him for his brilliant part in Bad Garret and Billy the Kid, for doing work with Martin Scorsese in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, for A Star Is Born. I knew him for a marvelous role, a mesmerizing presence in Heaven's Gate by Michael Cimino, which is a film that I'm not so much a fan of. But there is a lot of beauty in that film. And the charisma of Kris Kristofferson being such a force of nature, unlike any other actor who also made music or musician gone actor. He was such a presence. He was a very big star in the 70s. And if you read interviews with him, for example, there was his 1974 Rolling Stone interview, in which he is so gorgeously down to earth and in full praise of Sam Peckinpah, brilliant, uh, brilliant filmmaker, and he held him in such a high regard, and he spoke about him as a true poet. You can read between the lines that this man understands so much of the craft of storytelling. Later on, he did so many other roles. I'm also a horror fan. He played a very good part in Blade 1 and 2. So I thought, yeah, am I gonna start listening to him? Because is there not a better introduction to country? He said, Ruud, the salesman, he said, no, no. And if you buy this, it was very, very cheap, €7. And if you don't like it, you can always bring it back. And that's something he has always said. And I only brought one record back once in 5 years of buying. And he's right. It's a record that I will never bring back, because this, The Silver Tongued Devil and was the best introduction into the world of country that I could imagine. The lyrics of Kris Kristofferson, his strong conviction, his poetry in everyday life is just astonishing. The Silver Tongued Devil and Hey, he's the devil. It's Jody and the Kid, Billy D, Good Christian Soldier, Breakdown. Ah, oh, we got some lyrics here. I love that. I bought a first US pressing in San Francisco a couple of months ago, because I just adore this record. But something like Loving Her Was Easier Than Anything I'll Ever Do Again is one of the most beautiful love songs. I have seen the morning burning golden on the mountain and the skies, aching with the feeling of the freedom of an eagle when she flies, turning on the world the way she smiled upon my soul as I lay dying, healing as the colors in the sunshine and the shadows of her eyes. It's, I mean, it's really tough to write a good love song, and he just nails it. But he has so many great songs. The Pilgrim, Chapter 33. I think this brilliantly reflects the world of Kris Kristofferson. He's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher and a problem when he's stoned. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction, taking every wrong direction on his lonely way back home. Uh, he dedicated it to a lot of people over time. Johnny Cash, Dennis Hopper, who he worked with for the last movie, Dennis Hopper's second film. His most gorgeous song, the one that whose recording almost also strikes me the deepest, is Epitaph, Black and Blue, which he wrote about Janis Joplin. He had a short relationship with Janis Joplin. Her close friends have gathered, Lord ain't it a shame, grieving together, sharing the blame. But when she was dying, Lord, we let her down. There's no use crying, I can't help her now. The party's all over, drink up and go home. It's too late to love her and leave her alone. Just say she was someone so far from home, whose life was so lonesome she died all alone, who dreamed pretty dreams that never came true. Lord, why was she born so black and blue? Man, he's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher. I'm in I'm in awe of Kris Kristofferson, and I'm so sorry to hear that he's no longer with us. He was a very special person, and a couple of years ago, I was working on a documentary about Mickey Newbery. I was trying to get it organized, and Mickey Newbery was a close friend of Kris Kristofferson, so I got to talk with people who knew Mickey Newbery. For example, his wife, uh, and she told me such fascinating stories about Kris Kristofferson. He was a highly gifted student. He had a IQ of, I'm not sure of the numbers, but between 140 and 150. He was brilliant. So he also got special funding, and so he walked through life in a different manner, but he never became an elite kind of character. He was always very firmly rooted in his surroundings, and uh, very mindful and close to his surroundings. Very good, interesting human being who had a share of struggles. He spoke about it in songs. There's this beautiful live show in which he's talking about he's the devil, he's everything. I believe he announces the silver tongued devil and I, and he says, "Well, the devil is right now partying with Willie Nelson somewhere in Texas," and the devil in his case was alcohol. And this is an interesting story about how he started off and how he got his first deal and got to record his first album. So he worked in Nashville in the studios, and his first as a janitor. And on his first day as a janitor, Kris Kristofferson got to work in the studios during the Blonde on Blonde sessions by Bob Dylan, and he cleaned out the ashtrays for Bob Dylan. I mean, I would have done that. That's an awesome job. And he got acquainted with Johnny Cash in Nashville. And Johnny Cash, he saw that Kris Kristofferson had potential as a singer, as a writer. As a matter of fact, Johnny Cash made a big hit with Sunday Morning Coming Down, a song written by Kris Kristofferson. Um, Johnny Cash said only one thing: I can help you. I may be able to help you, but you gotta sober up. You gotta sober up. And Kris Kristofferson took that to heart. And to prove to Johnny Cash that he was sober, he did something only a sober man can do. During his time in the army, he became a helicopter pilot. So when he got sober in Nashville, he got a helicopter, and he flew the helicopter into the garden of Johnny Cash. Now, there are some stories that say that Johnny Cash saw it and was convinced. The stories that I've heard from people more close to the situation said, yeah, well, he did land that helicopter there. Thing is, though, Johnny Cash wasn't at home. But he, of course, heard the story of Kris Kristofferson landing the helicopter in his garden. And then Johnny Cash got him a deal so he could record his first album, and his first album is also mesmerizingly good. For example, the song "Sunday Morning Coming Down," which had its fair share of awards. But I mean, when you can write something like, "Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt, and the beer I had for breakfast wasn't bad, so I had one more for dessert. Then I fumbled through my closet to find my clothes and found my cleanest dirty shirt, and I shaved my face and combed my hair and stumbled down the stairs to meet the day." This is a new kind of poetry, a unique kind of poetry, and it's so honest, so close to the heart, yet so confronting. And the way, his skillful manner of delivering it. When you listen to live recordings, you can sometimes get the idea that he was insecure about his voice. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Um, I think that during the studio recordings, he has one of the most gorgeous, warm voices. Somebody who knows so much about the story, never forces his way through. Everything comes so naturally, the tone, the diction, the emotion, even the emotions he suppresses. It's such a skillful, it was such a skillful performer. What I'm going to do tonight is a friend of mine is coming over for some drinks. I'm going to put this record on. And after that, I want to put on his live recording with Lou Reed that he did a couple of years ago, I believe in the Bottom Line. It was a session in which singer-songwriters would talk about the craft. And again, Kris Kristofferson was so humble. He was sitting next to Lou Reed, and I'm also a fan of Lou Reed. But I had the idea that Lou Reed kind of wanted to place himself above Kris Kristofferson. Perhaps it's just a wrong way of phrasing from my part or from Lou Reed's part, but I got that impression. Yet every moment Kris Kristofferson speaks, you find the kindest, gentlest poet and lyricist being so true to himself, so true to the music. And that combination of a Lou Reed and a Kris Kristofferson sharing openly about the gift of songwriting, yeah, I hope people watching this might also want to join in and put that on as a celebration of the work of Kris Kristofferson. So, yeah. Well, I'm curious. Do you have any tips or songs or lyrics that you'd like to suggest or remember Kris Kristofferson by? Please leave a comment below. I'll see you in my next video.